So his army general took 30,000 men, women, and children and marched them into that hippodrome and killed them. And that was a bloodbath that brought down that ride. And that ride is known in history as the Nika Ride, Nikka. You ever heard of that? No, you haven't. I understand that. And the word Nika, Nikka, means conquer. Greek conquer. Okay? And after he brought that ride down, and things began to settle, he already built a Hagia Sophia. Then, a rich merchant in Constantinople by the name of Harith ibn Gabala came to Theodora, and watch this now, and said, I want you to send someone to evangelize among the Arabs or the Europeans then. And she went and hand-picked Uncle Tom Negro Coptic Egyptian by the name of Jacob Barrodeus, known also, aka, as Jacob Barrodeus. Okay? And she commissioned him to get a group together to evangelize among the Europeans. Okay? And he got about 120 clergymen, 170 really, clergymen, including women. See, the women over there were nuns. See, they practiced celibacy. See, all of the Coptic Egyptians, whether they're Melkite or whether they was Monophysite, they practiced what is known as celibacy. And that's the reason why those women, those African Coptic Egyptian women, were called nuns. They didn't practice, they didn't have sex. You know. And that's where you get the practice of celibacy, supposedly in the Roman Catholic Church. But you know that's a big joke. With all those fags running around, you know, flushing babies down toilets and stuff. Anyway, she got this Coptic Egyptian. Now, you know, remember me saying during the time of Ptolemy I Lagi, when they refused to accept his image as a god throughout Egypt, he closed all those temples down and forbade any of the African Coptic Egyptians to build any temples. Okay? Because the Melkite Copts used the facility that the Byzantine rulers provided for them. So those are the Uncle Tom Copts. So now she goes over and gets Jacob Barrodeus, and she had him a headquartered building built in Syria. Today, you know what that building is called? The Jacobite Church. The Jacobite Church, named after Jacob Barrodeus. See? It's all history. And they began to evangelize among the Europeans over there, thus causing them, and they are known in history as the Arabs. See, those are your first Arabs, you see? But let me get back to Philippicus. This is great here. Philippicus, now, the argument was always over the human nature of this thing here, right? So now, Philippicus did something. See, they were usurping each of those Byzantine, European white men. They were usurping each other so bad and so fast that you didn't know who the ruler was. You may wake up in the morning, maybe Henry Jones. The next day, maybe Thomas Johnson. You see? So Philippicus came along and had his picture painted and put out all over Constantinople. Said, I'm the new ruler. And all throughout the Byzantine Empire. Now what happens to a picture? When you look at a picture, the old adage says what now? A picture is worth over 1,000 words, right? So when they look at a picture of a man, you think that the image or the icon that's drawn as a man is a man, right? Okay. The bright idea was thought up by the patriarch Gregory of the Hagia Sophia. Said that we can paint Christ's picture like that. Ah, you see that? And we can show that Christ has a human nature. You see that? So when you see this picture of this thing here, you say that's a man, right? That was caused by Philip Picus. He didn't do that on purpose. But this Coptic African brother, who was the patriarch of the Hagia Sophia, said, we can do this by painting Christ's picture. And show that Christ was a man. You see that? To show that Christ has a human nature. The argument is still going on whether this image had a human nature or not between the Monophysites and the Diophysitics. You see that? No, not today. I'm talking about then. Okay, I'm showing you the progression of history, how this thing came about to be what it is today. That's what I'm explaining. Now, when Philip Picus was in power from 711 to 717, and then Leo III came in as the Byzantine ruler. And he came in because his empire was still under argument between the Diophysitics and the Monophysites. He said, we're going to cut this out. So he had two African brothers to write up a decree. Constantine the Black and another brother wrote up a decree known today in history as iconoclasm. Iconoclasm means the breaking of images. In other words, we're going to break this image. We're going to destroy that image. So Leo had all those images taken down that this Gregory had commissioned to be painted, to put around Constantinople. Because Gregory had no authority to do that, right? Because he didn't have the ecclesiastical authority was in the hands of the Byzantine ruler, not him. So he had no authority to do that. Leo was mad as hell. And they took all those images down and brought together a dogmatic decree written by these African brothers called iconoclasm, the breaking of images. That's what it means. Okay? Now, that was to appease the Monophysites. You know, you're all cool down, everything's cool. In the meantime, let's move a little further after Leo III. After the death of Leo III, his son took power, Leo IV. And he had a wife by the name of Irene. Not the one on the record said, "Good night, Irene." Not that one. He had another Irene. This is Irene of history. Guess what Irene did? Because there were certain men in the Byzantine government who did not like what Leo did with iconoclasm. Okay? And they got together with Irene and said, we'll make you the head of the government. And guess what she had to do? She had her husband killed in order for her to have that power. And they had a 10-year-old son, and the power was supposed to went to the 10-year-old son. The 10-year-old son can't rule no government, so she took it over. She became known in history as the Empress Irene. And guess what she did? She called the Council of Nicaea II to come about. You ever heard of the Council of Nicaea II? See, you don't hear them. You hear about one, but you don't hear about two. Now we're going to talk about two. It's called the Iconoclasm Council meeting, 787. See? It's in my book, Historical Origin of Islam. 787, she called that council meeting to be. Okay? So called the Council of Nicaea II. And in that council meeting, she had her stooges on staff with her to write up dogmatic decrees against iconoclasm, in favor of iconoclasm. You see that? This is what she did. And long story short, in those decrees, those decrees was written to give and make this Christ God now. This is where Christ became God. At the Council of Nicaea II. And guess what else they created there? They created saints. In other words, if you want to talk to God, you got to go through saints. Now, see, all this is history. See how you see all saint this and saint that? It's not that easy. It didn't come about like that. You got to go back in history. These were the saints, the angels, and so forth. You got to. They was used as intermediators between you, the human being. If you want to get to Christ, give Christ a message so you can get a blessing. Pray. Right? Oh, you got smart. See? So now, this is what they did at this council meeting. You see that? So now, after Irene went out, you could fast forward. We're gonna come up to the time of Photius. You ever heard of Photius? Called the Photius Philippi controversy. See? We're talking about 869 and 870. See? The Photius Philippi controversy. Photius was a Greek-speaking Coptic Egyptian African. And this is what got Photius in trouble. Bardaeus, who was a Byzantine ruler, appointed him to be the patriarch of Constantinople. Like I said, patriarch of Constantinople represented Monophysitism. The patriarch of the Hagia Sophia represented diversity, Christianity. Okay? So now, Photius came along and they rushed him through the procedures to be a patriarch instead of new president. And the patriarch of the Hagia Sophia, another brother, resented that. Okay? So what Photius did, he retaliated by saying that, number one, he refused to recognize the patriarch of the Hagia Sophia, the Pope, of the Hagia Sophia. He refused to recognize him and his authority. You know, I don't recognize you. You're just another nigger. Yeah. Look for a better word. Then the second thing he didn't do, he refused to recognize the Philippi in the creed. Now see how they set you up? Instead of saying he refused to recognize Christ in the creed, they said the Philippi. They used the word Philippi in place of Christ. Slick. It won't wake you up. It won't wake the Christians up. He said Philippi, they don't know what the hell Philippi is. Because it took me a long time to find the meaning of Philippi.